also known as Simba. I am the founder and president of the Afrikan Heritage Foundation, a charity based in Barbados. It came about with me wanting to um, assist in bringing about positive change in the island and amongst black people generally live in Barbados. So, 7, 8 years ago, I started a magazine called Our African Heritage. This came off of the Garvey philosophy of reaching people through media and building economics through that same media. I used to consider it a working magazine. So I used to have an event every quarter. So in between the publishing of the magazine, I would hold a community event. One of the events was called Sankofa. This was really thinking that we didn't have a authentic African festival and that we have Homeschooling, which celebrates the arrival of the European here. We have Crop Over. The name in itself suggests the essence of what that is. So I started doing different things, panel discussions, different themed dances, and things like that. Foundation is set to be, the thinking is to be a government within a government. As I say, similar to the UNIA, what the UNIA did in terms of reaching out in different areas. So we have what we call operational orders. We have 9 of them. They would be equivalent to ministries in government. So we have agriculture, we have sports, we have health, business development, event planning, security, education, social care.
But what we are trying to do is build a very strong community base. Um, we've been involved in a number of promotions in terms of like for Black History, African Liberation. We have Mikey General in for African Liberation Day, Warrior King in to celebrate Marcus Garvey birthday just the other day in August. But we don't only do parties either, but the um, party oriented events because we do other types of events too. But I was saying that the partying with a purpose is wherein you don't only come to party, you learn, you interact with other knowledgeable ones and share information.
We think that a lot of the issues that we face as black people stem from a lack of a positive and a strong sense of identity. You know, in Barbados and a lot of the Caribbean countries, we start our history as black people with slavery. So we hardly go pre-slavery, and for the youth coming forward, if you start your history with slavery, there's not much to feel proud about. So you would see in the older generation, I would say like the over 40s, especially over 50s, 8 out of 10 of them would tell you that they're not African. Yes, I mean, basically because they are ashamed of that space because of a lack of education. So a lot of us still feel that slavery was a saving grace. A couple of years back, when I was selling the magazine, I spoke to a university lecturer at KFL just down the road, and she was saying that she gave thanks for the advent of slavery because she now had the opportunity to be a lecturer at the university. Right? So that is the sort of ignorance that we are faced with, and we really can't blame the people. It is because of a failing education system. So we, as the foundation, we do a number of different things. We're now looking into an agricultural project. We just started another agricultural project, a backyard home garden project, where we're looking to develop local medicinal herbs and have them in tea bags and things like that. We are looking at creating a homeschooling service. We call it the Home Directed Learning Service. So that is one of the things that we're doing, and that has come directly off of the case that we were involved in representing a Rastafari family who had been charged with not sending the children to school and not making proper application to homeschool. They have also been charged and face a custody hearing. Right? Since our involvement, they have the guilty verdict of the criminal case for not sending the children to school that has been overturned. We have just gotten permission, official permission from the Ministry of Education for the children to be homeschooled. And we're looking to work with the ministry in similar cases to help families, not just Rastafari families, because the foundation is not a Rastafari organization. Um, it just so happened that this case happened to be um, a Rastafari family. Homeschooling is nothing new to Barbados, you know what I mean? But it would seem that it was only a particular class of people that were homeschooled or even given permission to homeschool. So when this case came about, the homeschooling issue, it took on the form where the parents, although they had sent in a letter of application, it wasn't considered to be, what do you call it, the right thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't considered to be good enough for them to accept. You know. So we, as the African Heritage Foundation, we read about it on the news. I went to see the family. Um, Again, this is where media is important. We use social media to show that the youth were actually being educated at home. We took a video of the little boy reading, and that caused like a national stir. That got lawyers on board, you know, to the point where the the criminal case for not sending the children to school that was overturned. But there's also they also face a custody case, which is based on the criminal case. So we feel really good about that. Um, One of the things we had to do was to sign an affidavit in court saying that we would take responsibility as the foundation, myself as the president, for the education of those two particular youth. So we had teachers come on board to volunteer their services. So as I said, we have instruction going on in English, math, Spanish, no information technology. And actually, we have been pointed to another case that the ministry has access to look into, you know, to save it reaching a court situation. And, you know, so this again is one of the things that we feel good about. As I say, becoming the, 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 the entity that can bridge the gaps between the people and the government. Because sometimes there are big gaps between the people and the government, lack of understanding, mistrust, you know. And people tend more, or would tend more to trust an NGO, you know, something coming from the people.
The organization is not a Rasta organization either, is Afrocentric, wherein we have members from the spiritual Baptists involved, people who deal with comedic connections involved. Is a Afrocentric organization. Orishas there, you know, different types of people, different backgrounds. We're trying to build an economic base because we realize that a lot of Pan-African organizations focus on either social aspects or different aspects, political aspects, but they don't necessarily focus on the economic aspects. And I think that that is very needs to start, not just I, but in terms of the organization, we think that that is where it needs to come from, that economic base, in order to push the social aspects and also the political aspects of what we're trying to do and achieve on a community level. So lots of things that we do are free to the public, where we're trying to get, you know, local vendors involved. I too, I am an artist, and these are some of the things I do, like this head wrap, the jacket that I'm wearing, crochet mostly. My brand is I Create. So we have a lot of small business people involved in the organization.
Um, we keep various events, as I say, like sometimes theme parties, cultural shows. Recently, we've been invited to host the drum circle for an event called the Moonlight Bazaar. You know, we did that last Saturday. That was really well. We've been invited back to do this again. You know, so these are the sort of things that we're involved in. I consider Pan Africanism in Barbados very weak. You know, compared to Trinidad. When you look at our Emancipation Day festival, you know, we can't get 100 people to come out on August 1st to celebrate emancipation around Bassa. Um, Again, it starts with the education, you know, and things. So you still find that in the schools, you know, so that a lot of teachers in the schools are church people, you know, and I like to differentiate church from Christian people, you know, I like to call them church people. Um, and you would find that anything African, like our experience, trying to get drums into the school, even for like Africa Day in Black History Month, the Christian teachers would tell you that the drums bring out demonic spirits, and you know what I mean. And this is real, a concerted effort, you know what I mean, to re-educate our younger minds, you know what I mean. We'd be lost. I consider Barbados to be like Cuba before Castro, the playground of the Americas, Barbados right now, as it is one of the most racially divided islands. Our mainstay is tourism. So we have a million hotels, not literally, but enough hotels. But you can't find a white maid. You can't find white groundsman. I think Barbados has one white police. White people don't go to jail, so at least local white people. You know what I mean? So what we consider menial jobs are always left to the black man, right? And even in agriculture for the black man signifies poverty. So we can't get our youth that we're selling to UE and you know what I mean, to go back in the ground. Agriculture to the white man is big business in Barbados. So these are the attitudes that we need to reverse. We have a statue like Lord Nelson downtown, and if we understand what Lord Nelson stood for, he fought against the abolitionists. He fought against men like Wilberforce and thing in London, you know what I mean? So if left to Lord Nelson, we would all still be shackled and chained slaves. We're still economic slaves, wage slaves, but shackled and chained slaves. You know, but sadly we live in a space with about 97% population African descended people, but the 3% that make up Syrians, white people, Chinese, they control 98% of the wealth, right? So how do we change that situation? We have Barbadians in government, but I don't think we have a Barbadian government as yet. We don't have a government that really has come up with a solution to the ills of the society. Poverty is man-made, so the solution to poverty has to be through men. Poverty is kept because class is needed. You can't have a rich man without a poor man. You know what I mean? So to keep the luxury and the class status, you have to keep poverty in check. So the politicians will come with rhetorics like the answer to poverty is more employment, right? Get more jobs, I think. But the most poor people I know is work 9 to 5, 6 and 7 days a week. So employment cannot be the answer to poverty, right? I was in South Africa, that commission when they went to. They were the one that was responsible for putting the issue of the transatlantic slave trade on the table and having it considered a crime against humanity. It is out of those things, the international days, and even this decade that we're in, of recognition, So what I'm saying that these sort of actions have come out of civil society, have come out of the NGOs, and if government was really interested in empowering the people in development in the state, they have to empower NGOs such as the Afrikan Heritage Foundation. But we know that's a long chance, so we are here to empower ourselves. That's why we have the GoFundMe campaign. That is why we to encourage persons to give a £5, a $10 US. You don't have to break yourself, you know what I mean, in terms of spend what you don't have, a lot, and this is what we have to understand, The economics is within the our communities, locally and internationally. And all we have to do is give a little, The giving a little of that will help us go a long way. And we don't want to do this thing. We're not going to be asking forever. We just want to start off. It's like trying to jumpstart a car. We got a nice pretty car here now, you know what I mean? And thing, but the battery ain't got no charge because it's new. So we need a little push to jumpstart. Once we start to run, when we stop again, we can start with self again. The car is work. Right? So right now we're just asking people for a little jump start by donating a little $10, or £5 or £2. It could be a pound, you know what I mean, whatever. But as many people that do that, and you can check the work, our website, africanheritage.com, African is spelled with a K. We've done so many different projects, to try and remember them all now. Give me a little task for me, but that is what we do.